Midsummer Nightmare by Will McMurrow from the Popular Magazine, April 1929. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Dale Grothman. The harrowing experience of Mr. Forrester, who had a twin brother. Midsummer Nightmare by Will McMurrow. An amusing thing, you might think, to have happen to a perfectly sane and sensible person. But these amusing things are liable to have a tragic ending, and I wasn't at all amused, I can tell you. This twin brother of mine, I'm not boring you, I hope. Pullman smokers are inclined to make me talkative, especially when it's a long way between stops. No, I didn't say between drinks. Thanks a lot. I don't touch it. Saw too much of its effects lately. I was telling you about Jim, my twin brother. Rather unfortunate chap. Funny the way those things crop out in families with no apparent reason. There was no taint of insanity in the blood, as far as I know. He was follicular, I think they call it. Hallucinations. Thought he was someone else, that sort of thing. Thought he was Harry, that's my name, and that I was Jim. Another hallucination was that he was a reincarnation of Julius Caesar. Absurd, of course, and harmless enough until he began to put his beliefs into practice. When he walked into the town hall of his village and threw the mayor out of his chair, and later made a speech to the people from the balcony declaring the country to be a conquered Roman province, something had to be done about it. He'd made considerable money before his mind became affected, so he didn't have to go to a public institution. His friends had him committed to a high-class sanitarium, and his affairs were taken care of by the court. I suppose his friends forgot him by and by, and there he stayed, undergoing some kind of treatment. I wasn't in the country at the time, and I was his only living relative. I had been away 10 years, since the time we were boys together. I doubt if anyone he knew had any idea that Jim had a brother living. And if he claimed he did, it was probably put down to another hallucination. At any rate, I wasn't notified of his condition. After our parents died, we were separated. We had quarreled over the inheritance. Before that, of course, we had been as close as twins usually are. Alike as two peas, too. Even to the scar that I carried on my right hand. There it is, you see. A knife wound I got as a boy while playing Indians with Jim. He deliberately inflicted a similar wound on his own right hand. Remorse, or some such thing. He was a neurotic fellow, with the indications of an unbalanced mind cropping out even at that age. He later thought I had cheated him in some way in the matter of the inheritance, and was very vindictive about it. Of course, I forgot all about the old quarrel when I heard, in a roundabout way, that poor Jim was insane. I made it a point as soon as I got here from Europe to go and see him. It was a sanitarium run by Dr. Swarthmore. You know the type of place, secluded, expensively run, with all the latest baths and rays and devices to trick the immortal spark back into that clouded mind. Swarthmore was the kind of nut on that thing himself, believed in his treatments and charged well for them. He handled various cases, dipsomania, melancholia, and so forth, and did well with them, too. It was by no means a poor man's place. No thanks, I don't smoke. I'll explain that presently. I took the train out of Penn Station, this same line we're traveling on, by the way, and dropped off at a little station this side of Atlantic City. The station agent informed me that Swarthmy's was barely a quarter of a mile up the road, so even though it was a warm August afternoon, I decided to walk. I strolled along the curved dirt road, meeting no one on the way. I guess it was too hot for Swarthmy's parents to be out walking, and the country was not thickly settled, big estates mainly, with Swarthmy's 100-odd acres sandwiched in between two tracts of woods. The place was not what you might expect in an asylum. Evidently it had been a country place of some rich man, long, shaded avenues, big house in the center, gate lodge, farm buildings, and so on. Swarthmy had erected some cottages for his people, little cheerful homes. There was nothing institutional about the sanitarium. There was a watchman at the entrance, an old fellow with his chair tilted back against a tree trunk and a newspaper over his face, asleep at the switch. It was a lazy kind of an afternoon. I didn't awaken him. It didn't seem necessary. There was a sign there requesting visitors to check canes and umbrellas and dogs, so I left my stick in the rack and went ahead. Several other visitors had preceded me and were walking up the roadway toward the cottages. I followed and came to a shallow concrete pool, bordered with trees. Several patients were bathing quite peacefully and happily under the watchful gaze of a well-dressed, heavy-set man on the bank. No uniform attendants about Dr. Swarthmy's place. Nothing vulgarly suggestive of an insane asylum. But the bathing suits were exactly alike. I caught sight of Jim almost immediately. He was standing in a bathing suit by a row of tiny bathhouses under the trees. The method there was to have the patients dress and undress for bathing there rather than have them wandering around the place in swimming suits. I recognized him right away. It was like looking at myself in a mirror. A bit thinner, perhaps, and some difference about the eyes, but unmistakably Jim. He saw me too, but appeared neither surprised nor delighted. I suppose in his mental state nothing appeared strange. I hesitated to approach him at once. We stood regarding each other for a full minute. Then he put his fingers to his lips, jerked his head toward the guardian warningly, and beckoned to me to slip quickly inside the bathhouse. I did so. I was not as well informed about the vagaries of lunatics as I am now, or I would have realized that it was not always advisable to humor them. It seemed the thing to do. He shut the door behind us and turned to face me. "So you've come back," he snarled, "to do me out of my inheritance, to gloat over what you have done." I began to wish I was out of that place. "You're wrong," I said soothingly. "Don't be excited now. I heard you were in here, and I came to see my captivity," he grated. "Caesar in chains. The great—" "That's utter nonsense, Jim." "Jim!" He didn't raise his voice, but I could see he was enraged. "You still keep up the damnable lie? You're Jim Forrester, and I am Harry. It's a trick to get my money from me. You've told these cursed villains here that story. They pretend not to believe me when I tell them I have a twin and he is the real Jim. But now that you're here, the truth will—" "All right," I said hastily. "I'll explain to them. Just let me out for a minute and I'll talk to the guard out there." I turned to go, fumbling with the doorknob, and it seemed to me that a stroke of lightning had struck the bathhouse. When I came to, the door was still shut, and I was lying on the floor. I felt my head that ached terrifically. There was a bump on the back where he had hit me, but no sign of blood. My clothes were gone. His bathing suit lay in a heap on the floor. It took me a full minute in my dazed state to get the full import of what had happened. Then the horrible truth came home to me. With the insane cunning of his kind, he had trapped me and freed himself. The full extent of that trap I did not realize until later. My first thought was to get out and give the alarm. I dressed hurriedly in Jim's bathing suit, then threw back the door with a slam. The man who stood guarding the patients looked quickly in my direction. "Careful, Mr. Forrester," he said good-humoredly. "You'll break the door." I rushed up to him, excited. "Quick! Watch the gate. One of your patients is escaping. He got me in there and changed clothes. Best get in the water with the rest, Mr. Forrester. It's wonderfully cool there, they say. Look how the others are enjoying it." "Look here!" I exclaimed. "You don't get this. I'm telling you one of your people is getting away in my clothes. Hurry, there's a train leaving in 10 minutes. The one I was taking back to the city. Man alive, don't you see?" "Easy now." He seemed cool and detached. "Who is this party?" "My twin brother, Jim Forrester. I came here to see him. He tricked me and switched clothes. I'm not the man you think at all. I'm Harry Forrester, the twin brother." "I see." He beckoned to a man passing by, a man as phlegmatic and solid and pleasant as himself. "Mr. Forrester has been having the return of his little trouble. That twin brother of his, you know. Will you let him explain to Dr. Swarthmore?" "Just go with him, Mr. Forrester. The matter will be attended to satisfactorily." "You don't believe me," I cried desperately. "Meanwhile, he's getting away. You may never locate him again. He'll disappear." "Oh, he'll be back." He patted me, not familiarly, but in a friendly fashion, on the shoulder. "He usually does. Then you can point him out." I stood gaping at him, trying to grasp the complete disaster that had happened to me. They took me for Jim Forrester. Jim was gone, leaving me in his place. We were as alike as two peas. I knew no one nearer than Europe who could prove that I had not been in that sanitarium for 6 months. These people never believed Jim Forrester had a twin brother. To all appearances, I was Jim Forrester, still carrying out the delusion that I was Harry Forrester. How could I prove them wrong? Only one way, by stopping Jim from boarding the train and vanishing forever. I darted from beneath the man's arms, started running down the road to the gate, my bare feet scattering the pebbles. Behind me, heavy steps pounded, and the two men ranged alongside me. "Now, Mr. Forrester," the first one pleaded, "we can't have this sort of thing, you know. It's all in good fun, but we must go about it regularly. Dr. Swarthmore will want to hear all about your twin brother." I struggled in their grasp. "Let go of me! Damn your dumb heads, I'm not crazy. You're making a terrible mistake. The man you want is wearing my clothes right this minute. I must get to him before it's too late. Let go! Help! Here!" People were beginning to notice the commotion. I could see the shocked glances the visitors were exchanging. What they were thinking was that this was not the reputation that Swarthmore's had for order and discipline. My two captors probably agreed that this was a poor advertisement for the firm, for they began hurrying me toward the mansion. I appealed to an elderly gentleman nearby. "You can help me. Go to the railroad station and see if there isn't a man there dressed in a brown suit and straw hat. He looks exactly like me. We're twins. Stop him. You'll know him by sight." He walked away quickly, shaking his head. I shouted after him and squirmed around in the clutch of the guards. Other guards appeared from nowhere, as if by signal, and I was carried, kicking and fighting every step of the way, into the big house. That was my introduction to Dr. Swarthmore. He was a short, plump, blue-shaven man, with a pencil mark of a mustache above thick lips that were eternally smiling as he listened to what a man had to say. And, black staring eyes, magnified beneath thick glasses. Eyes that were always watching, studying, analyzing, filing away for future reference. I learned to hate that eternal smile, and I learned to fear those gleaming, magnificent eyes that were always fastened on me wherever I turned, that confronted me wherever I might have the chance to be, always watching you, studying you, filing away for future reference the slightest move, the least slip of the tongue. But I didn't know him well then, when I was introduced to him. I explained fully, in detail, about the unfortunate affair of my twin brother, how I had come from Europe only recently and heard of his trouble, how I had come to see him and how the trick had been played on me, and exhorted him to locate Jim before the train started. He listened, eyes and smile fixed, and when I had finished, reached quickly for my hand and looked at the scar on the back. The fact that it was there did not seem to surprise him at all. I explained about it. It was exactly as if I tried to explain it to a squat, grinning stone god. "Listen, Mr. Forrester," he said, and leaned across the desk as if trying to hypnotize me. "You have no twin brother. Try to think that. Try hard. It is a dream, a nightmare. You are among friends here. You will rest, take life easy, exercise as usual, think of nothing but cheerful, pleasant things." "Damn it, man, you can't keep me here. I'm as sane as you are. I'm Harry Forrester. Jim is my twin brother. My twin. Alike as two peas. Twins. He's playing a trick on me." I rushed toward him, but my escort closed in quickly. They were practiced and proficient in handling situations like that. No rough handling, you know. Just a jolly, jostling crowd that took no offense when a shin was barked, and they even went so far as to pretend to me I was carrying a football down the corridor, and that they were the interference. I found myself in jig time, immersed to the neck in a warm, fuzzy bath, in a contraption that gave me no liberty of arms or legs, and there I remained for several hours. If it did not make me any easier in mind, it gave me time to think over my situation. I was calmer when they released me, and Dr. Swarthney visited me again. He had another bespectacled party with him, a kind of consultant, I suppose, who was there to observe the latest development of the madman's malady. But it was an old story to them, this delusion about a twin brother. They listened to my tale, nodded to one another. Swarthney asked me several questions, still smiling, still studying me as if under a microscope. "In other words," he said blandly, "if I understand you, you are not the Jim Forrester who has been here for the past 6 months, but a twin brother whom no one has seen around here before, and whom no one believes in but yourself. You carry the same scar on your hand. You are a living image of Jim Forrester, who stepped into a bathhouse to dress for bathing. All right. Don't excite yourself. We believe you absolutely. Now, what happened in the bathhouse? Do you remember falling down or getting some kind of shock? Think now." "I was struck on the head by my brother," I said. "Here, you can feel the lump yourself." They both examined it. "Traumatic," Swarthney purred to the other man. "I doubt it. Fainting fit brought it on, undoubtedly, but no direct causal relation. Delusion, of course. Remains fixed. Discuss it with you later." "Listen to me," I said quietly. "I can see where I am in a pickle here, but surely there is a way of proving my identity. I have friends in England that will vouch for my being the real Harry Forrester. Why not communicate with them?" "Surely. By all means. Just let me have their names, he agreed, but I could see he was humoring me and had no intention of writing to these, as he thought, visionary persons. You feel better now? I'll feel better when I've seen the last of you and your asylum, I exclaimed hotly. Stop treating me like a madman. Take my fingerprints, if you like, and compare them with this double of mine. We don't do that here, as you know, he explained patiently. If our clients did not object, their relatives might. This is not a prison. I think you had better rest now. It's been a rather strenuous day. I argued with him, pleading, explaining over again the combination of accidents that had placed me in this terrible position. I begged him to send for the watchman at the gate where I had left my cane with my initials on it. Eventually he agreed to do so, rather in the hope, I think, that I would be persuaded to quiet down. But there was no cane. A gentleman took it, I guess, the watchman said. There were several canes there. I don't remember which visitor it was. Mr. Forrester, Swathmy told the watchman, has been annoyed by a twin brother of his. Did anyone, resembling Mr. Forrester come in at the gate? You would have seen him, of course. The watchman shook his head. He was asleep, I cried. He didn't see me, naturally enough. Beg your pardon, sir, the man reddened. I was awake at all times. He was protecting his job, of course. You can see that. And there was no earthly reason for him to admit being asleep at his post just in order to humor a lunatic's delusion. But the thought that this man's lying stood between me and possible freedom enraged me beyond measure. I flung myself at him, got a blow before they tore us apart, and back I went to the warm bath under the care of a couple of attendants. It was a trap, and struggle as I might, there was no way out. What could I do? What would you have done? No, thanks a lot, no cigarettes. There I was in that man's hands. How I grew to hate him as the weeks went by, with his smile and his searching eyes and his damnable questions. Jim Forrester was gone, never came back. Anything might have happened to him. He might have wandered off a pierhead or gone overseas. He was cunning enough, and the wallet in my coat pocket was well filled. It was this wretched hallucination of his that doomed me. He had claimed he was Harry Forrester. No one believed in the twin brother idea. If I could have gotten out, I might have dug up some old family friend in our hometown in Ohio who knew the twins, who could have vouched for their being Harry and Jim Forrester. But I couldn't. I wrote letters, but Dr. Swarthby would not have strangers annoyed by his patients, and I suppose the letters were suppressed. It would look bad for his place. Once, one of Jim's legal guardians came to see me. I told my story to him, talked to him intelligently of Europe. But when I claimed to be Harry Forrester, he shook his head sadly. It was Jim's favorite delusion. He humored me, of course, but I could see it was no go. As far as he could tell, I was Jim Forrester, who had been placed in the sanitarium months before. Look at it from their viewpoint. Jim Forrester, an inmate, had been taken that day to the bathing pool with the others. He had slipped into one of the bathhouses to put on his bathing suit. He had appeared shortly in great excitement, still laboring under the delusion that he was being persecuted by a twin brother, and told the story that was obviously part of that delusion. No one had noticed such a twin among the visitors. If the watchman had seen me enter, if I had only shown myself to Dr. Swarthby first. But it was too late to think of that. I might have waited more cheerfully if there had been hope that my friends in England would grow alarmed at my disappearance. But I had no business connections. I had been living on my inheritance that was invested in government bonds. Moreover, Jim, with my clothes on, my papers, my hotel key, my safe deposit key, and all my records available, would adopt my identity. And he would, too, for that was his delusion, that he was Harry Forrester. Of course, he could not duplicate my signature exactly, but even a halfway imitation would pass where there was no reason for suspecting a forgery. He was capable of it. A man with delusional insanity can be perfectly sane on all other things but his one trouble. If he jumped overboard or turned the gas on, as was likely, that would be Harry Forrester's body, and no questions asked. Don't you see how impossible the thing was? There was a way out, and only one. That was to adopt Jim's identity as he had taken mine, to pretend that I was cured of this delusion that I was Harry Forrester. They would then release me. I would return to Jim's life and environment and quietly wind up his affairs, so that I could slip out of the country and marshal my proofs. Fantastic, maybe, but there was nothing else for me to do. As long as I maintained I was Harry Forrester, they would keep me in that sanitarium. But I had to go about it carefully. No slips, mind you. I must convince Dr. Swarthney that he had achieved a real cure. To pretend and keep pretending under the glassy scrutiny of those merciless eyes meant that I would have to acquaint myself with the recent history of Jim Forrester, the faces of his friends, his habits of life before insanity had come upon him. It took weeks of preparation, of watching and waiting and matching my wits against Swarthney's. I made no mention of Harry Forrester, took all the weird treatments, the ultraviolet rays, the medicated baths, all the rigmarole that they insisted on. It was amusing to watch Swarthney sometimes, but I did not let him see me laughing at him up my sleeve. There were those penetrating eyes of his. Today, this morning in fact, I took the bull by the horns. It was then or never. I walked into his office alongside my attendant. I had drilled myself in the part I was to play. "What am I doing here?" I demanded. "Who is this man who follows me around? I don't understand. How did I come here?" "Don't you remember?" Swarthney's smile and glittering eyeglasses were upturned to me. I passed my hands across my forehead, as if in a daze. "No," I said slowly. "They tell me this is a sanitarium. There has been a mistake here. I'm Jim Forrester. The last thing I remember, I was driving my roadster with Leo Press." This was the name of one of Jim's friends, which I had learned. "From the Seaboard Inn." He asked me a lot of questions, searching questions about everything under the sun. I answered them in turn, carefully, guardedly. My liberty was at stake. If this failed, another chance might never come. He seemed almost convinced. He dismissed the attendant to wait outside. I sat down. More questions. I knew he was trying to trick me, watching for a slip of the tongue. I dug my nails into the palms of my hands to keep from shouting out the truth, that what I was saying was a lie, that it was a damnable outrage to make me assume another's identity, that I was really Harry Forrester. I denied having a twin brother, denied ever having been in Europe, tried to make it clear that this lie was the truth. And all the time those burning black eyes behind the glasses were boring into my tortured mind. All the time I was like a man sitting on top of a volcano that threatened to smash this world I was building. It came at last, the thing I could not escape, the trap I could not avoid, the truth I could not deny. He turned for an instant to get some form from his desk, shoved with the other hand a silver cigarette box toward me. I didn't know what I screamed at him. Perhaps I didn't scream, for he had no time to turn. I swung the silver box and crashed it down on his cursed head. The attendant ran in. He, too, fell before me. I had the strength of 10. Then the escape over the wall, this train rolling from the station. You look pale, my friend. I have tried you with my troubles. But your offering me a cigarette, it started me talking. He offered me a cigarette, too. It was too much. I could deny, pretend I was not Harry Forrester, that I was Jim, his twin brother. But to offer a cigarette, can't you see how absurd that was of him? What a ridiculous anachronism, to offer a cigarette to the great Julius Caesar. I had to kill him. There was no other way. Here, where are you going? Wait, there is something I must explain. You must understand. The end of Midsummer Nightmare.